pros and cons of living in Meridian, Idaho. By the end of this video, you're gonna be able to know if Meridian is gonna be a good place for you to live or if you should take it off your list and consider other cities. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Craig and I am your guide to relocating to Idaho. As we dive into Meridian, Idaho and help you decide if it's gonna be a good place to live, we're gonna talk about things like the location and where it sits within the Treasure Valley and if that's good or bad. We'll talk about Meridian's rapid growth and the negative impacts that it's had on the community. We'll then talk about if it's gonna be a good fit for families. And again, by the end of this video, you're gonna have a really good overview of what Meridian, Idaho is like and if it's gonna be right for you. And be sure to stick around till the end as we're gonna talk about the weather and what it's like, because I know a lot of people who move here end up leaving and a lot of it is due to the weather. Pro number one is gonna be Meridian, Idaho is family friendly. I know a lot of families who move in and they love Meridian for a couple reasons. One is new construction home. They get into a beautiful new construction home and they love the community that they're in, and there are parks and tons of things to do with your kids. It's safe, which means if you have kids, you are comfortable with them going outside and riding their bike and going down to the park. Very much as kind of like Sandlot vibe feels. The next is going to be events. Meridian, Idaho, like a lot of other cities in the Treasure Valley, the community comes together in events. So whether that's events at parks, whether that's sporting events, all sorts of things like that, there are a ton of things that help draw out the community to make it a great place, again, for families or you in general. Because I know a lot of struggles that people have is that when they move to a new place, they're really trying to figure out, like, how do I make friends and where do I go? So Meridian does a good job of putting on events, and there's a lot of great newsletters in town that kind of help key you into what some of those events are. One of them is from Boise. I'd encourage you to go check them out if you do move here, because she will do a killer job of keeping you up to date on things that are happening so that you can enjoy the community, get to know the community, and get plugged in when you do move here. Location, location, location. Now, most people, when they think about location, 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 you're thinking about real estate. And yes, I do encourage you to buy a house in a great location so that one day that you do go to sell it, it's going to be worth a lot of money for you. But location, 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 what I mean by that is that Meridian, in the greater picture of the Treasure Valley, is kind of right dead in the middle. It's in the middle, top to bottom. It's in the middle, side to side. And so because of that, you really get great access to things, and things tend not to be too far away from you. Case in point, me and my family live on the bench in Boise, Idaho, but our kids go to school out kind of near Eagle. We have a lot of friends who live in like Meridian and Eagle, and so we're always coming from this far right side of the valley and traveling left, and it definitely adds up. But if you're in Meridian and you have, friends in Boise, it's not too far from you. If you have friends in Eagle, it's not too far from you. You have friends in Kuna, it's not too far from you. If you want to go to the foothills of the river, it's not too far for you. And so in terms of location, it's very centralized. And other benefits of it, there's a lot of work in Meridian. A lot of things are growing and happening in Meridian. And so there's not a lot of reason to leave. It's a great location in that sense. But in terms of where it is in relation to everything in the Treasure Valley, you're kind of centralized. So yes, you do have some drive times for things, but everything is kind of roughly the same. It's just not too bad. All right, pro number 4, let's talk about growth and development. Meridian is growing a lot. Every time you go out there, it feels like it might change. There is a influencer in town here, and she sells a t-shirt, and the t-shirt's really funny. It just says, I remember when that was a field. Right? That's something you'll become accustomed to too if you live here. You'll drive by something and it's a field and it's farming and agriculture, and maybe you don't drive by it for 2 months. You drive back by and there's like 50 homes, or there's a commercial structure, or there's a car wash facility. It changes. There's a lot of growth. And so benefits to you is that if you want a new home, there's lots of new homes being built. If you want certain amenities, new amenities I feel like are coming in every year. I think it was last year that we got Topgolf. They have the Village. It's an outdoor mall. There's just tons of things going in. There's racquetball stuff coming in, but it's a benefit because it's not a stagnant city by any means. There's a lot of room for development, and they're constantly trying to make things better to adapt to that growth. But in terms of job opportunities, you have great opportunities there because it's constantly growing. In terms of amenities, it's great and it's growing. Pro number 5 is going to be safety. This is a big deal to a lot of you. I talk on the phone with a lot of you guys. I get phone calls from you, emails, scheduled Zoom calls. And one of the reasons that you're leaving where you currently live is because of safety. You're like, I just don't feel safe here, especially you people with families, kids. You know, when you were single, didn't have kids, you thought, oh, I don't mind it too much. And then all of a sudden you have kids and your radar starts going off and you're like, oh, you're really, thinking twice about things. When we relocated here, we came from a city that there were shootings. If you didn't put a lock on your bike, consider it gone. In general, you will move here, and as your internal spring kind of decompresses and you start to get used to the new reality, you will probably be shocked, depending on where you're coming from, obviously, but you're probably going to be shocked of how safe it is, how clean it is. You can go to a park and it's not overrun by homeless people and there's not needles on the ground. You'll go under overpasses and there's not homeless encampments there. Go to bed one night and you forget to lock your car doors, you're not going to wake up and it's going to be rummaged through. So I'm not going to dive into the numbers of that. I actually did a video on the safety of the Treasure Valley as a whole that's more technical and numbers. And if you're moving for safety, then Idaho should be at the top of your list. Pro number 6 is going to be outdoor activities. This is a big one for me because one of the reasons that me and my family decided to relocate to Idaho was definitely the outdoor activities in terms of hiking, fishing, golfing, if you're into golfing. Coming here, you have a lot of great things to do. So whether you want to float the river through town, you can totally do that. If you just want to get together with some friends, and I always think about kids because we have 4 children right now. We love meeting friends at the river and grabbing food and letting the kids play around. It's a pretty safe river, especially depending on where you hang out. Though we were just in Eagle the other day and we were there for like a pre-school event for my kids' school. We showed up early, so I was fishing in the river because I just keep my fly rod on my car and I'm fishing in the river and my kids are like running around in the bushes. And then anyways, I hear them screaming. Granted, I think they're play screaming, but they're not. They stepped on a tree and some bees came out and my daughter got stung. It was horrible. I feel so bad for her. But you have these outdoor activities, back on a better note. You have these great outdoor activities here. So the river, playing at the river. Again, I mentioned parks, but you also have the foothills. That's a big one. So mountain bike riding, hiking. If you have dogs and you want to get them out for a run, you have that. If you like getting up in the morning and going up the hills and getting a nice view of the city as the sun comes up, you totally have that. With where Meridian's located, it's really centrally located, everything. So if you want to go to the foothills, it's there. If you want to go up to Bogus Basin, it's not too far. If you want to head up towards McCall and Cascade, this outdoor area, traveling along the Payette River, it's kind of a straight shot up for you. This last weekend, I took my son out for his birthday. He turned 10. I took him down the Payette River, and we went camping. And on that trip, we saw, osprey, and I taught him how to fly fish. And we hit some great class 3 rapids, and we saw bats flying around at night, and we caught bullfrogs and crawdads in the morning. So there was a ton of stuff going on. And with Meridian, it's just kind of nice because wherever you want to get, again, you're back to the last point of like location. You're really close to a lot of these things. So outdoors and outdoor activities is definitely a pro for living in Idaho in general, but Meridian specifically. Now, before we jump into the cons, because I always want to make sure you guys get some really good cons because I want to save you the trouble of moving here and have it not work out for you and then have you have to go through all that trouble to move again. It's a lot of time, money spent involved. But let me know in the comments, is Meridian so far a place that you think you could move? I would love to know. And also, I see some of you out there, you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet. And if you're interested in all things Idaho, what it's like to live, work, eat, sleep, and play here, and what real estate is like, then be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified every week I post new content. Con number 1 is going to be rapid growth. Now, people who've lived here for a while really feel this, right? When you come, it's going to be like, oh, this is all you know. This is what Meridian is. And you're going to be like, I love it. For a lot of locals, they're here, and the Meridian they loved was 10 years ago. Idaho's a great place and people love it, and I totally get it. But as we continue to bring in all these people, it just changes things, right? What used to be a field is now a complex of homes. What used to be a place where wildlife might run through is now a commercial structure. What used to be wide open views, again, is just now infrastructure. And so the rapid growth is great in terms of we're building a lot of things to accommodate people as they come. But then the downside of it is that there are growing pains, and it's just not going to be the way it was. Like if you go to some small towns in Idaho, you move there now, they'll probably be the same in 10 years. That's not the case with the Treasure Valley here. So we're going to call that con number 1. Con number 2 is going to be growing house prices. Right now, the median housing price for Meridian, Idaho is right around $500,000. I'll put up a photo right here of what exactly it is. This is great for people who have lived here and have ridden the housing market up. I'm super happy for them. I'm always a huge fan of people buying real estate. I think it's a great investment, especially for the long term. It's a little risky for short term, but especially for the long term. But housing prices are not what they were. With that being said, housing prices have gone down a little bit this year. Interest rates have gone up. That is affecting things. It'll be interesting to see what happens with interest rates. If they go down, I think demand will go up and things will get more competitive. If they go up, it'll just keep going up. And I think people like yourself might continue to hold and wait and see. But in terms of growth and housing prices, it's not as affordable as it used to be. And for locals and for people moving in, they're maybe feeling a little priced out of the area. Con number 3 is going to be traffic congestions. Meridian, just like the whole of Treasure Valley, is really growing, right? From people moving there, or as it grows, more and more people probably come to work there from other neighboring cities. And so a lot of congestion is happening in Meridian. They're doing the best they can. It's really interesting how the city itself is being developed. Like I kind of said earlier, it's farmland, and then it gets bought and developed. Meridian's just like this big, huge grid with the Boise River kind of cutting through some of it, and then 84 cutting through the lower section of it. And so because of that, it just it's not that great, and they're dealing with what they have been dealt. Now, if you move here, you might think it's phenomenal. Like if you're coming from certain areas in California and you're like, man, it took me forever to get from A to B, and then you can do that in a quarter of the time here in the Treasure Valley, then that's phenomenal. Locals are going to complain about it, and they're going to be mad about people moving in and making that worse. But for you, you might love it, you might hate it, or you're just used to it. Con number 4 is going to be limited nightlife. Idaho is not your booming nightlife state. Boise and the Treasure Valley is not your booming nightlife city. And especially Meridian, where you're kind of getting away from the heart of downtown, like downtown Boise. You do have some things that you can go do, but in terms of getting out at night, it's kind of, maybe you find some things here or there, but it's really kind of like, tucker down, pour a cup of tea, and, watch the geese or the ducks fly overhead as the sunset drops. That's kind of what nightlife looks like. So Idaho as a whole, if you're big into nightlife, it might not be your best jam. Again, this is Idaho. It's not Seattle. It's not LA. It's not any of these other things. It's not like you can uproot LA and bring it here, nor would you necessarily want to. But I'm just saying, it's like the small town doesn't suit everybody. And so this could be a con for you, and it could be something of where you're like, man, I'm not ready for that in my stage of life yet. Maybe a little later. But just know that's a thing, and things are just slower paced out here. Number 5 is going to be potential crime increase. So you're watching this video because you're thinking about moving to Idaho. Let's just say you do, and let's say a ton of other people do, like they have been, but it just changes. So I was recently on the phone with somebody who's considering a move out of California, and we were just kind of talking about things, and we're like, yeah, we don't see things as getting better and better over time, which is unfortunate, because they're considering Idaho, and they're like, well, what happens if Idaho turns into California, or turns in, and we just get this mess of stuff. And it's like, well, and then their question is like, well, where do we go then? Like, do we just kind of keep moving? And is Idaho a safe place? Yes. It will be interesting to see the impact that's happened to Idaho over the next 5 to 10 years. And what I encourage this guy, and I would encourage you, is think long and hard about what causes stuff like this. Like, why is it that when all these new people come in and they bring their own thoughts and ideas and values, and then maybe, crime starts to increase, which is very unfortunate. It's not something I want to have happen. I know a bunch of locals here don't want it to have happen. I've had people call me who are locals here and say, please stop making videos. We don't want people to come to Idaho. And I told this lady, I'm like, I'm 100% like in agreement with you. I don't want to see it change. But at the same time, I know you guys are coming anyways. And so I'd rather educate you and at least have some say in it, or encourage you that maybe this might not be the right fit for you and you should go look at another state. Locals here love Idaho. They love what it's about. They love what it's been like for the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They're not super happy about changes that they're seeing, about people not picking up trash, not taking care of the place as if we pay somebody else to really take care of it, as if you don't have any responsibility in taking care of the state. With the increase of population, things are changing. We and all the locals here, me included, would love to see it change for the better. And so if you don't plan to take care of the state and you want to rob people, then save yourself the trouble and don't move here. There are people that I talk to that love Idaho. That you love everything that it's about. You love its values, how it runs, all that stuff, and you're totally for it. And I would say we welcome you with open arms. If you're offended by this, leave a comment down below and tell me all about it, and I'll hop in the comments and chat with you. Con number 6 is going to be weather extremes. Now, as we look at the Treasure Valley as a whole, it's pretty mild, especially for winters. But even a mild winter for us in relation to the rest of Idaho might be really extreme for you, and you just might not like it. I have talked to people who move here, they last 1, 2, 3 years, and then they leave, and it's because of the winter. They're just like, we can't do this winter. We don't like the cold. Like we're going back to Florida, we're going back to San Diego, or wherever they came from. They're just out. On the flip side of that too, it's really hot. The Treasure Valley is different, where we get really hot summers here. Like 90 to 100, kind of in that range. And it's hot to where, it's one of those, I'm going to cool down the car before I go get in it. The AC's cranking all summer. You maybe think twice about going out midday. And I know if you're watching from like Arizona, you're like, you're crazy. You guys have it so easy. But yes. But you're like, do I want to go out midday, or do I want to go on a walk later this evening? Or do I want to take the kids and family to a park early in the morning? And so weather extremes, are definitely something that you need to consider hard, because it may be something that should stop you from moving here. Again, it's a big waste of time and money for you to go through all that work and moving somewhere, deciding it's not right for you, and then leaving. But if you're somebody who's like, man, I want all 4 seasons, and I don't mind a little bit of snow here and there, and I don't mind shoveling sometimes, then Boise, Meridian and the Treasure Valley, Boise, could be a good fit for you. So if you're looking for a guide to help you relocate to Idaho, feel free to call, text, or email, days, nights, or weekends. Me and my team would love to be your guide, so reach out. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.